Hey, Susie, how are you?
Hi. Hey, ooh, I like your background.
Okay.
It says exhale.
Inhale, exhale.
Inhale, exhale. Nice.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, you need to have that behind you every day at work. I don't know, maybe in front of you.
Just plug me into it.
Yeah.
I need the reminder every day too.
Right? I love this. Well, it's nice to meet you.
You too.
So, Susie, thank you so much for doing this.
You let me know when you're ready.
Ready?
Ready?
Three, 2,
2,
1.
1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I'm Dirty Skittles, and I'm joined by my co-host,
G-Rex.
and our very special guest today. We need a drum roll. Susie. Welcome, Susie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Oh, we're good.
Hanging by a thread. No, just kidding.
Well, yeah, hanging by a thread. I'm tired. I went and saw Wanda Sykes last night, but she was like 2 hours away from us. So we spent the night and then got up at crack of dawn because I forgot that we were recording all day today. And so we had to like race home. But we couldn't really race home because it was raining. But, at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, all the drunks were still asleep. So we were good. The only thing I had to contend with was the rain and the 18-wheelers. So,
Well, there you go. You made it safely.
I did.
I know.
And I've had like 4 coffees and a Coke today. But over the last 2 hours, I've weaned off that and we are now on water because I do want to take a nap later on.
Perfect.
She says a nap, but I'm like, if you nap like past 5, just go to bed. Just call it you're going to bed. You're calling it a night.
I'm not 75. Okay, I'm 60.
Last night you were in your 20s.
Last night I was in my 20s. It's okay. You know what? We digress as we get older, okay? So whatever. It is what it is.
I didn't do anything new.
And I feel like I'm 80, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a rough... The last time we record one day a month now. And the last time we recorded, I was hungover the next day because me and my friends went to a Taylor Swift watch party.
Ooh.
So we were just at a bar.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't even have a wild night, but I was tired because I just went to bed past like 9.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
After 9, we are done for the day. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Like last night, I'm like thinking to myself, I remember when Friday night, like at 9 is like when you were regaming to get ready for whatever Friday night was going to be.
Yeah.
No, I was like, I need my hot bath.
Yes.
My moisturizers and my lip balm that I need to just lay down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Faded
I
on
don't
the
even know
carpet.
what sleeping in is anymore. My body naturally wants to wake up at 7, even if it's a Saturday or Sunday. And I'm like, is this what mid-30s looks like? Because I don't love it here. This is
Okay, so wait until
It
you
only
get
gets
to your
earlier.
wait till you get to your 60s because that's Saturday and Sunday. If it's not a recording day, I am not rolling my ass out of bed until 10 a.m. Except like we live across the street, not across the street, but down the block is a church. And every Sunday at 9:30 in the morning, bang, bang. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can you make that a little like tiny bit lighter?
that would be awful. That would be awful.
So now on Saturday nights when I go to bed, I wear my AirPods so I can't hear it.
That's smart.
There you go. And that's why you sleep till 10.
And I'm
I
afraid
don't even
that
know what sleeping till 10 looks like anymore.
I know.
Till 1 in the morning. At 7, we are awake.
That's wild.
It's not,
That's wild. Bless your
not
heart.
fair.
wow, no. I mean, I do have to
Yeah.
get up at 7, but it's not to like fully get up. I need to go to the bathroom and then I go back to bed.
Oh.
It's perfect.
Wild, dude.
I
What time do
wait
you...
for that life. I'm excited for that. For just
Yes.
normal. Like normal.
Right. What time do you go to bed, G-Rex? If you're waking up at 10?
I will. So on the weekends, I'll probably, if I haven't been up forever, I stay up till about 11. Because remember, like I during the week, I only work 30 hours a week. So some days I go to work at 9 and some days I go to work at 10. So on the days that I go to work at 10, I don't roll out of bed till 9:30 in the morning. So I work from home. It takes me 2 minutes to get to work. Down the stairs, grab a coffee, come to work. It's super simple.
Yeah. Hey, you're living my best life.
Yes, mine too.
So Susie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm 36. I'm a mom to a 16-year-old boy who's the coolest kid on the planet. If he wasn't so awesome, I'd be like, maybe more kids in the future, but we stop at the perfection, okay?
Right.
Kids were just not for me. I'm a third generation cosmetologist. So my mom and my grandma did hair for my whole life. Grew up in it, deciding when I graduated high school, that's what I was going to do. She was disappointed, but that's okay. And I was doing that for, I want to say 15 years, owned my own business for about 4 of those years. And then my body was like, reject everything about yourself. We are going to fall apart.
Oh,
yeah. And so I started getting carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, trigger finger, rotator cuff issues. And my most recent situation was a herniated disc in my neck and had to have a discectomy of my neck.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like in the last 3 years, I've had 4 or 5 different surgeries. Yeah. So in 2020, when COVID happened, obviously hair salons had to take a step back. So we were shut down for about 3 months. And when we went back, that was when my body was just like, no, I'm done. We don't want to do this anymore. So I started recognizing all these problems that I was having. And my doctor was pretty much like, listen, girl, I hate to tell you this because you're only in your 30s, but you can't do this for the rest of your life. It's time to start thinking about what's next. So I enrolled into college and started pursuing a degree in counseling because all of my clients were like, you're like the best counselor and I don't have to pay very much. That is so fair. So I decided to go back to school to become a counselor and I graduate May 5th with my bachelor's. So I'm very excited.
Wow. Congrats.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Are you hitting up your clients now with like a business card? Like, hey, remember me?
So it's funny that you mentioned that because for the last year, I have been working as a crisis counselor. And so I tell them all the time, like, while you can't technically call me directly, here's where you can call, and I work there. So it's free for you.
You're like, so you're paying even less now.
Literally. I feel like it's a win for them. It's kind of a little bit of a loss on my end, but hey, when we finish, I'm going to start my master's in August so I can become a clinical mental health counselor, licensed. And so that's obviously 3 years from now, probably. But yeah, so for now, we're doing.
How's your family taking the change in career?
So at first they didn't understand it. You know, they're obviously excited for me to do anything, you know, they're happy, they're supportive. But the way that I grew up, talking about mental health was just like a very hush thing. And so when I said, I'm going back to school to get my degree, I left it at that. Originally, it was just, I'm going to get my associates. So that way, when I can't do hair anymore, at least I'll be making more than $15 an hour. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Or at least I hope. And then once I finished my associates and I decided I wanted to get my bachelor's because there really wasn't a lot that paid you $15 an hour. So I was like, okay, well, if I get the bachelor's degree, then maybe we'll bump up a little bit. And during that time frame, I decided I was in love with psychology. Like it just spoke to me on a whole new level. And I had all these clients telling me like, you would make such a good counselor. Like you should really look into that. But I also had like this thing about forensic psychology. I don't know why, but like I'm the person who falls asleep to murder docs. So like
Yes.
my thing.
Same.
So I did a minor in criminal justice just so that way I could have like that mentality. So when I told them those two things, they were like, but why? And I was like, so I can process my own childhood trauma, okay?
I'm going to self-diagnose. I'm good.
Like, I got free therapy while I was getting an education. So it's kind of bit me though, because, you know, now that I do have that newfound awareness of certain things and I can look back on things and obviously look at other people and kind of help them through situations, you really end up in a very isolated space because people are like afraid to talk to you because they don't want you to be like, mentally mind gaming them with your counselor brain. Some people don't come to me anymore for their problems.
Right.
Just come.
I feel like
come lay on my couch. We're gonna therapist you.
Right. Yeah. I feel like when we started doing the podcast, we started interviewing friends and family members because it was, you know, kind of like us like tiptoeing our way into that world. But after that, I felt like my friends, they didn't want to talk to me at all, or like only like when we're drinking, right? Or they were like, so let me talk to you about my childhood. And it was like, we're not recording. Like, where is this coming from?
That is so literally my life to a T. And then if they come to me with their problems, because like they're just wanting that friend to talk to, I'm like, okay, so I have a pseudonym that I use for my counseling and my close friends and family know what that name is. So I'm not going to say what that name is, but let's just pretend her name is Samantha. Okay. Do you want Samantha Susie or do you want your friend Susie? Because those are two different people. So we need to know who we want to talk to. Because
you're like, I'm here to show up for you, but just tell me how.
In what way do you need? And every time I say that, they're like, oh, you sound so like a counselor. I'm like, I can't turn it off, guys. I don't know. There's not an on-off switch, okay?
I love that, though. I love that you're still so mindful, though. Like, I'm going to be here for you, but just let me know how do you need me because we'll channel either one.
Prior to the counseling side of things, when I would give advice or give help, they always received it so well. They're like, oh my gosh, this is like the best advice ever. And then nothing changed except for pursuing a degree in it. And now it's met with that, like, don't tell me how to live my life. Why are you analyzing me?
Which is so interesting. It is just interesting to think about. Like, but I get it. Like, it was very, honestly, I mean, I guess to a certain degree, I knew I needed therapy because I knew I needed it, right? Like, not because anybody told me I needed it. But I remember when I first made that decision, telling my husband at the time, like, I think I'm going to do this. And I was kind of scared because I didn't know what he would say or what his reaction would be. And I never told my family. Like, I didn't tell them until 3 years later or something like that. Just because the stigma around mental health was like, well, why do you need it? Yeah. You're totally fine. There's nothing that you need from a stranger that's going to tell you something that I couldn't tell you or that you couldn't tell yourself. And it was very interesting to like kind of be met with that. I think the only person that I understood was my dad because he became a therapist. So like it made sense. But it's so interesting to me how that stigma or that fear or I don't know,
I think
mentality
that only, and I'm going to use this word in the nicest way, only people who are crazy, mentally unstable, unwell are the ones who need therapy. When in reality, the shift that we have had happen, especially over the last 4 years with COVID and that isolation we all went through, I think people don't realize that therapy can just be a really great way to talk out your feelings, your problems with an unbiased person that really just wants to be there to support you. And whether that's they give you feedback, they give you affirmations, they give you something to work on, whatever you need in that moment, therapy is just a good outlet to just say what you need to say and not be met with rejection or not be met with hostility. So it's more than just for the people who may feel mentally unstable. It's for the people who just maybe like need a friend that's not your friend to talk to.
Right.
Yes. So true. So true.
Yeah. And life changes, right? So like for me, when I found the therapist that I worked well with, also not like, there's something to be said when you have a conversation with a friend. It's that one conversation, you feel great after it. But after that conversation, life changes and you might need another conversation. So to have this therapist there, somebody who will check in with you,
Yes.
or that you have this continual, appointment on your calendar, you're going to meet with them again. That's, I think, what at least got me through some of the darkest times, was having that consistency and that help from that unbiased person that's literally there just to support you and listen to you and be there for you.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful I got into being a crisis counselor before going into being a licensed counselor, because I get to look at mental health in such a unique way. I'm literally talking to people who have gotten to the point where I no longer want to be on the planet. Like, I'm done with existence, and to help them see themselves in a different way when we're not in person. I don't know what they look like, don't know where they are, don't know what they're doing, any of that stuff, and have just a genuine conversation with them, unbiased. I don't know their friends. I don't know their family. I'll probably never talk to them again. There's something to be said with that conversation with someone who's completely neutral to your life.
Amen. Because I will tell you, 988 saved my life. Literally. I wouldn't be here today without them. They don't ask your name. They don't ask where you live. They are the most empathetic people you will ever talk to. And the next day I was in therapy, and today I'm alive.
I'm so happy.
A year later.
Like that.
I know.
The stories like that are what make me adore my job so much more. And I get met with that question of, how can you possibly do that job? Like, how daily, And it's obviously stories like that where it's like, I could have literally one conversation with the person, and at the end of it, they're like, I think you just changed my life. And that's a humbling feeling. It also kind of makes me a little sick, because I'm like, what if you get someone you talk to the next time that's not the same way, and what could happen, right? But one of the things we are taught very early on in our job, in our role, in our position, is we can only control our controllables. And after that, it's outside of our control, and we cannot blame ourselves for things other people do.
Yeah. That I'm not one of the people that's like, how can you do that every day? I immediately worry about you. Like, I'm like, how do you take care of you? Because I would find that part hard.
Sure. So I guess I'll take it back to what made me want to do this job in the first place. Growing up, I had a family member, and I'm going to leave it at a family member, who was very up and down emotionally. And this person was 2 years younger than me. And they just had a lot going on. They were a very popular person, very well liked. But their parent, one was an alcoholic, the other one was extremely strict, very type A personality, very disciplined nature. A lot of the times you would get met with yelling if you did something wrong. So this family member of mine just had a lot of things going on in their life. And for them, they did not know how to process or handle it very well. And when they got into high school, they just had exceptionally bad acne, and it just ruined their self-esteem. And they started taking medication called Accutane. I'm sure people are familiar with it. Mm-hmm. It caused them a lot of depression and suicidal ideations. And I'll never forget, they got in trouble, and they sent me a message basically telling me that they were like done with their life, and that they swallowed a whole bottle of pills. And I remember in that moment, I was 16 or 17, I think. And I remember calling their parents saying, hey, this is serious. We need to take this serious. And that parent at first was like, oh gosh, no, we hear that all the time. Like, it's not a big deal. They just use it for attention, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, no, like we need to get them taken care of. And found that person, that family member, empty bottle of pills. The 911 came, pumped their stomach, the whole 9 yards. They had to spend some time in the hospital. And for several years after that, they were never quite right. They were always dysregulated. Moods would go up, moods would go down. And I kept insisting, and I was, like I said, 16, 17 at the time, I think they might be bipolar. I just feel it in my heart. The extreme mood swings were just unbelievable. One day they would be the nicest person to you, and then in 5 minutes they were calling you a see you next Tuesday.
Wow.
Like it was just mind blowing. And so when I moved away, went to beauty school, started living my own life, got pregnant at 19, had postpartum depression, awful, didn't know what it was, didn't understand it. So all of these things were happening. And the idea that I had this family member who had multiple occasions of suicidal ideations, several attempts. Obviously, they're still here today, thank God. And then going through my own phases of postpartum depression and having these dark, weird thoughts, like deranged, dark, weird thoughts. I remember my child screaming, crying one night and thinking, if I just maybe put him in the closet for a day, maybe I could get
he'll calm down.
Like it was the craziest experience I've ever had. And nobody really talked about that. Like I said, I'm 36. I turned 20 shortly after he was born. So back then, postpartum depression just was not talked about as much.
Right.
Especially to a young mom, a single mom, somebody on poverty level who's, not getting the right, proper doctors to help them. So I say all that to say that since I was 16, 17, I just felt this in my heart. Like I wanted to help the people who couldn't help themselves. And when I saw the listing on Indeed for this job, I was like, why do I want to apply for that? Like, I think I want to do that. I think I want to be a crisis counselor. Like, I think I want to work there. And I was really nervous, but a good friend of mine was like, you'd be amazing at that. And so I applied. I didn't have my bachelor's degree yet. It said you didn't need it at that time. And within 2 weeks, they hired me.
Wow.
And now you are required to have a bachelor's degree to work there. At least in the state that I live in, which I will also not say what state I live in, but at least in the state that I live in, it is a requirement that you have a bachelor's degree. So I'm almost graduated. So that's it.
Nice.
I got it right before that cutoff.
Right. So, but you are though, like you have a way to take care of yourself after a tough day.
Yeah. So when I went through therapy, this is how my therapist, because I needed to go through therapy for myself in my early 30s. I went through a very awful divorce. There were some really terrible things being said about me. I was being talked about on the internet, and I had nobody I felt safe talking to. So I felt like no matter who I talked to, it was going to spin out into a lie. And like my own family couldn't even protect me because they didn't know what the truth was. And so I just didn't feel safe talking to anyone. So I started talking to a therapist, and I would tell her all these different things that were going on and how I was handling it. And we go through 6 weeks worth of conversation. I was seeing her once a week. And by the end of it, she was like, you are a person who is like excelling in emotional detachment. You have this insane ability to like emotionally detach from whatever situation is happening. And I would tell her, like at the end of the day, here's how I do self-care. Like I do a nighttime routine with my face. Like I do a weekly routine with my hair. I like to only do spray tans. I don't tan in a tanning bed. Like I eat pretty healthy. I work out sometimes. It depends on what we're in. And so I'm like, she's like, you just are very skilled in emotional detachment. And when that person that you're having whatever with is not in front of you, you are able to detach from that and re-regulate yourself. And I'm like, that's so weird because that's true.
That's a very unique skill, I would imagine. Wow.
She said I'm very skilled in it, and I was like, "Is that like a bad thing?" Because I didn't know. I'm like, does this mean I need more therapy? Like, could I be feeling something I don't know? I don't know if what you're saying is a compliment or if I need more work. And it's like, you have a unique ability of always like, I wouldn't say like I'm always positive because that would be a lie. And most of the time, a very positive person. I try to see the best in people. I am a recovering people pleaser. Very proud of that. But I also like to laugh and have a good time. And so I think that the ability to emotionally detach, while it sounds probably a little wild, like I just don't allow things to sit with me for too long.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's a really healthy, like, I almost want to say it's like a boundary, right? Like you can't get past this point. That's really good.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.